And sometimes they're just not looking after their body or their diet, and they're just little fat pigs. You got to scream that at them via voicemail.
And you have to make sure they're aware that no one's going to love them because of the way they look.
Right. So maybe not as big a fan of his daughter at that time, but a huge fan of Tom Six.
Yes.
I'm not sure what I was going to say. The mastermind behind. I'm not sure it's justified. The guy behind, the Dutch guy, behind.
I thought he was going to be much older. I've never seen these movies. To be fair, I've never seen any of his movies.
Did he mention his age? You're right. He sounded very young. Okay, how old was he?
Oh, I don't know.
He's in his 30s or 40s. I
looked him up.
I thought it was going to be a lot of how old was he? I have no idea.
But I mean,
just younger than I thought.
I didn't commit it to memory, but when I looked him up, I thought, oh, he's much younger than what I was expecting.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, did you listen? It's the more recent. Did you listen to that one first, or did you go in chronology? Okay, as did I actually. Yeah. What about you?
I went Questlove first, and then Tom Six.
Well, we got 2 out of 3. We'll start with the Human Centipede.
Yes.
Even though, of course, the Questlove one gives you kind of insight into this creative individual that is Questlove. Right. Human Centipede is again the much more giddy of the 2 episodes.
It's frenetic.
He clearly has someone on that he's genuinely a fan of. That. If you look at the individuals that make up the typical roster of interviewees, right?
Yes.
I mean, every interview show is one of the maybe 4 or 5 kind of archetypes that you typically find a podcast in now, right?
It's a very popular podcast format.
Exactly. And I find you're going to go to them for one of 2 reasons. Either you really, really like the interviewer.
Right.
Or you like the kind of subset of people, the cohort that they're pulling on. Right, the interviewees. So with we talked about probably the most popular, and we've done it here, which is the WTF with Mark Maron, where by and large...
Do you think it's more popular than Oprah now?
I don't know. It's a good question. Super Soul's very specific.
It's got
about these kind of spiritual thought leaders. You know what I mean?
iTunes.
It may just be that the Oprahistas are more vocal.
Right.
They're more likely to sit down and say what they think. Or she buys bots. You know, maybe hers is more popular, but I'll put it this way. Going by iTunes weekly top 10,
sure,
where WTF is regularly in there, I've never seen Oprah
then
Super
it's got to be
there.
Joe Rogan, because Joe Rogan is always
absolutely
above
right.
Mark Maron
we've
and
done
Oprah.
both of them. So, and Joe Rogan, as you've said, predominantly interviews people who support his kind of
worldview.
Yeah, his particular view of
he's filling the need of his stupid base.
Pretty much, yeah.
And
again,
you know
he's the smartest dumb guy you know.
God bless him. But anyway, sorry.
And no, it's fine. And then we've got a show like this. Now, this show describes itself as one in which he's interviewing or takes you into the lives of artists, policymakers, and performers. That's kind of interesting right there, because you get the art side, comedians, actors, lots of musicians, which I really appreciate. He's interviewed a lot of really interesting folks from the last 40, 50 years of music. But you will also get politicians, policymakers.
Sure.
Or maybe someone who, pundits, people. Most recently is the individual is considered to be, at least among U.S. scholars, the foremost expert on Vladimir Putin.
Oh, right.
You can have that and also have, Roger Daltrey of The Who.
Right. And I think it's the benefit of being Alec Baldwin and being on WNYC.
Right.
Because I'm assuming that there's probably a network of people who are talent bookers.
Right.
Who are reaching out and saying, hey, you want to be on Alec Baldwin's podcast? Or they're being brought in for any of the other WNYC shows.
Right.
And they just kind of run the circuit.
And considering a show that's had everybody from, again, Roger Daltrey and Billy Joel to Rosie O'Donnell, you would not expect torture or Howard Schultz. You would not expect torture, porn, horror maker Tom Six to be on the show. And it's exclusively because he's like, ooh, your movie's so crazy and so weird, and I liked it so much. Please come and talk to me.
100%.
And when you're Alec Baldwin, you can get that to happen.
100%.
So it's a very he's much more chill with Questlove, even though he's clearly a fan of Questlove's as well. Look, I listened to the Daltrey episode. He says you will never know how important your music has been to me, and it's very clear from the interview. He's a deep cut. That he's been listening to The Who since he was a kid.
Okay.
And it's one of his favorite bands. And he's nowhere near as you say, wackily frenetic as he is on this episode. So, Doug, what did you think? How familiar were you with the Human Centipede idea and with this, what is now a series of films?
Right. So I have never seen any of the movies. I've heard, people talk about it, the movies. I feel like I may have seen a drawing of the Human Centipede, but never an actual, not an actual still from the movie or a clip or anything.
Right.
So really not very familiar at all, other than the premise. And actually, when they talked about doing I think I knew they did 2. I don't think I knew they did 3.
Right.
And then of course none of his other movies.
Right. Yeah, and I think those may have had very limited release.
I have to assume. I think that the other 3 were only in
the Netherlands.
In the Netherlands.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the other ones that are coming out have not come out officially or come out to very little fanfare.
And it was clear Alec Baldwin knew them all,
Yes,
except the one with the Dutch singer who's repeatedly raped
and
by
he
a
was
obese
supposed to be in one. He was supposed to be in Human Centipede.
Oh, no, he was supposed to be in I want to say Onomatopoeia, but that's not the name of it.
Okay, well, while you're looking at it, so I put one of the notes I put was Tom Six titles his movies exactly how I like podcasts to be titled: "Gay in Amsterdam," "Honeys."
You're right, Doug.
There's no
you
question
get
about
what's
that.
on the label.
Yeah,
he brings that up. Alec Baldwin says
he does.
there's no real.
You're not
Human
going for
Centipede.
artistry. And
I
you
know
tell,
what I'm getting into.
Human Centipede. I mean, it could have been named a million other more creative or evocative things. Even though, to be fair, Human Centipede, fairly evocative.
Although, when I think of a Human Centipede, I think of like a person like Island of Dr. Moreau, who's been grafted with a
chimera
1,000 legs,
between a human and
rather
a centipede,
than the way that it actually plays out, which is mouth. And let's let them describe it.
Right. This is Alec Baldwin in his incredibly Alec Baldwin tone describing the plot of Human Centipede. And I guess we should do what he does, which is say, if you are easily disgusted by horrific things, don't listen for about 15 seconds.
If you're eating a meal, definitely do not listen.
Absolutely. Here you go.
Dr. Hyder once get this, respected separator of Siamese twins, has a late career goal. It's to kidnap 3 people, sever their knees, and sew their bodies together mouth to anus, creating one long digestive system. It's a bleak movie.
So that gives you a basic idea. Now, I've known this is one of those things that he's entirely right. This incredibly niche, weird, seemingly insane film has really made it into the zeitgeist. I have seen 3 different sketches making fun of this, yet have never seen the film.
Right. I mean, there's T-shirts of that drawing. There is a drawing of it's like a line figures.
Right. We both know this because of the trailer, right?
Right.
So we should tell you, Brandon and I watched the trailer because there was no way in fuck we were going to watch this movie. And I love horror, and so does Brandon. I don't watch torture porn of any kind.
Body horror and torture porn are not my genres in general.
Okay.
And so it's something that I usually try to avoid. The movie is called The Onania Club.
Right.
That's what he's talking about.
I didn't even know that was out yet. I thought he was
not.
Okay, I didn't think
and that's
it was.
what Alec Baldwin was supposed to be in, but his wife said no.
Oh, yes, he does talk about that. Well, that's understandable.
But I think the thing that's interesting, and Human Centipede...
Do you think Maria would if you came home and went, look, his name is Tom Six, this is the film... Well, I'm just going to have you watch the trailer. You sat down with her, watched the trailer to Human Centipede, and you went... Yes. It's going to be his next film. It's about a group of women who can only achieve sexual fulfillment watching other people get tortured. So they do that. Do you think she'd be like, absolutely not? Or would she be like, it's a paycheck, go get it?
So, fortunately for both of us, this happened because when I was listening to this podcast on the drive home, Maria was sitting in the passenger seat next to me, listening to it as well. And she is a huge horror head.
Right.
So she is very familiar with Human Centipede. She has not seen it. She has no particular interest in seeing it.
Well, and there you go. So we have this repeatedly now.
And it's also
big
true.
fans of horror like me who are like, no, I'll never see this film.
It's such a subset of the horror genre.
It is.
Of the Eli Roth Hostel type.
Right, I was going to say,
Serbian
and to be fair, it's
film,
not
blah, blah,
just this, but a Serbian film or a Hostel or Saw, any torture porn. It's not, to me, it's not interesting. It's probably not going to be very well acted or filmed. Yes, it's there to gross you out.
So, I can guarantee you that she is not interested in watching any of the films made by Mr. Tom Six. I am actually not opposed to seeing Human Centipede just because I want to try sometimes I'll watch or see things just to see them.
Sure.
Just to have some understanding. And also because I want to know the reference point that all these people are making. Like Key and Peele did a sketch.
Yes, they
where
did.
They
That's one of the
see each
sketches
other,
I was referring to.
They see each other on a cafe, and they're like, "Hey, you remember me? We were in a Human Centipede together." And it's like
and
this
it's the
whole
embarrassment
thing
of being the back guy as
Right.
opposed to the front guy who doesn't have to have his mouth on anything.
Yes.
And, yeah.
And so,
Wait, did you say if Maria would let you do the film or not?
Yeah, did this topic come up? Because you said, she was in the car.
what do you mean? Let me do the film? I'm
Well,
sorry,
that
wait,
was
I
my
missed
whole question. Doug, you got that,
I
right?
did.
I might
Okay.
have. I might
Alec
have started
Baldwin's
thinking
wife.
of my answer before you finished your question.
You were just picturing a human centipede, weren't you?
I was trying to
It
work
was
it out.
carnival music and a human centipede. It was like a line drawing of a pizza going through the alimentary canal. I was saying, if you went home to
God, it's
Maria
much
went,
like-
I'm going to give you as much as you can take to understand who this guy is, what kind of films he's made in the past. He wants me to be in his new film about women who masturbate to people being tortured. Are you okay with me being in it? Do you think, as Alec Baldwin's wife did, she would put the kibosh on that?
Maria's pretty forgiving and understanding.
And she wants that sweet cheddar, too. She
I
wants
think
that paycheck.
that she is not motivated by money at all.
Okay,
That's why
good.
she's a public school teacher.
That's true. Good point.
So I don't think she'd be interested in me making the films because I don't think that she's opposed to things that are disgusting or inhuman because she loves horror.
Right.
It has to serve a purpose. And the problem is that Tom Six, and this is what I feel from the very beginning, is that Tom Six maybe believes what he thinks he's doing for the world with his films.
Right.
Maria 100% does not agree.
What do you think Tom Six thinks he's doing for the world?
I think that, the origin story that he tells in the podcast, and this was a fascinating part.
So this is what he says one evening at home. This happens.
I was watching television and there was a child molester on and he did the most terrible things to children and he got a very low sentence because of a mistake they made. And I was angry. And I said they should stitch his mouth to the anus of a fat truck driver.
Amazing.
Because that would be a great punishment.
So out of something good,
Yeah.
out of a desire for justice,
Absolutely.
emerged this twisted idea of your film trilogy.
Yeah, absolutely.
You said this man should have his mouth sewn to the
Anus of a fat
anus.
truck driver.
Right. So, and I think that he
And
took...
it's interesting. Alec Baldwin points out, but in this case, it isn't justice. It's
Right.
just innocent people. right?
Exactly. And so I think that if the story that they were telling, that Tom Six was telling, was actually a good representation of a greater societal ill that he's solving through this process of the film, that maybe she would agree to me being a part of something like that. Like if the Anania Club, because it seems like the premise, as he talks about in the podcast, is that the really rich people try to force these calamities because it's the only way they can sexually get off.
Right.
And if it's some sort of really strong reflection on society, the way that
We could see
Night
a
of the Living
metaphor
Dead,
here, right? We could
Night
see
of
a
the Living
metaphor.
Dead is a great example of what people do when faced with calamity.
Right.
I don't know if you've seen the Night of the Living Dead,
Yes.
the 1960s
Sure.
black and white zombie film. So like Maria would 100% agree to me being in a film like that
Right.
based on that. I don't think that Tom Six, I think he thinks he's making really deep and impressive and unlike anyone else, cultural relevant reflections of the ills of society.
Right.
I think that he just really sucks at executing it, or executes it in a way that's so
Maybe.
disgusting.
But again, as Alec Baldwin pointed
That
out,
Maria would say,
whatever,
"No, thanks."
Right. Whatever notion that he originally had in the kind of creative seed that
Yes.
then took root, he abandoned that societal
He
aspect.
really
this
did.
is in no way about a societal ill of any
And I
kind.
think that that's where the rubber meets the road. He probably had $200,000, $150,000, and it's like, I just need to shoot a movie that
Right.
takes place out in a street and in a house. Because as far as I can tell, it's a single location film
Yep, it
from the
looks like
trailer.
it. Looks like hotel room, road, house, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. And so, and sometimes you have to limit your dreams.
Of course,
based
we're
on
reviewing
the
a
needs of
movie
the
here based
production.
on the trailer we saw. But folks, that's
Just
all you're
like
going to get because we're
Alexis
not seeing it.
Ohanian's podcasts, Business Schooled.
There
you
you
know
go.
what? This is America, and I get to do whatever the fuck I want.
That's right. You're referring to all the millennials who had
That's
reviewed
right.
it just
'Cause I'm a
based on
millennial,
Yeah.
baby.
Yes, you are. I suppose you are. Yeah.
Now give me a prize.
You're a little old for a millennial.
I'm actually right on the cusp.
And by the way, you do. You're getting a trophy for participation, as do all millennials.
Thank you. I would have sulked and pouted if I didn't get
I
some
know.
sort
And
of
I should say, as I've said before, every generation has its shitty human beings and its doers and creative people.
Certainly true.
Probably no more shitty people, millennials, than any other group.